Let us watch this madness. An unexpected earthquake hits. Tom dies beside Clara, who was acting wildly intimate with him, but when the kidnapper's knife plunged into his body, he shakily dialed Clara's number, begging her to save him, but from the other end came a man's freezing voice. He literally said, "So you called to share the good news? If you die, that is just perfect." After dropping that brutal sentence, the phone was completely cut off. Tom closed his eyes in pure agonizing pain. In his last fleeting moments, he thought, if there is a next life, I will never love Clara again. But when his eyes snapped open, Clara was actually straddling him. She leaned down, playfully tracing his Adam's apple. Her slender fingers suddenly and tightly gripped his neck, her thumb pressing hard against his artery. That whole scene did not look romantic in the slightest. It looked exactly like she wanted to choke him out entirely. Tom forcefully shoved her away. Clara sat up, her face turning ice cold as she questioned Tom, "What crazy spell are you under now?" He did not have any time to pay attention to her drama. He hurriedly grabbed his phone to check the exact date. He was actually reborn, sent straight back to when he married Clara. We are in for a ride. In that moment, his mind went totally blank. Before he could even react, Clara's phone rang. From the other end came a very familiar voice. "Clara, when are you coming to pick me up? Did you not promise to catch a movie with me?" Hearing David's voice, Clara softly coaxed him, immediately standing up to get herself dressed. "I will be right there." Tom finally snapped back to reality, tightly grabbing her wrist, his voice completely trembling. "Clara, give me 20 minutes. I have something very important to handle." Clara frowned, violently shaking off his hand. She coldly asked, "What do you want to do now? You demanded that I sleep with you so I could go see David. I did it. Are you going back on your word?" Taking a breath, Tom looked right at her. Word by word, he firmly told his wife, "I want to completely divorce." Clara was utterly stunned at first, then she just sneered. "Tom, what kind of insane trick are you playing now?" "No tricks. This time I actually want to divorce you." After dropping that bomb, he pulled out his phone directly. He typed rapidly on the screen, firing off a message to his lawyer. After sending it, he turned the bright phone screen straight towards her so she could clearly read the cold words. "Lawyer, I want a divorce. Draft a divorce agreement for me immediately." Clara just stared intently at that bold message. She slightly narrowed her eyes. He looked at her, staring at this face that he had worshipped for so many years. It only made his heart shatter entirely. He had actually loved Clara since kindergarten, loved her for exactly 20 long years. Back then he was like a little puppy dog that could never be shaken off, always trailing behind her. But she never paid any attention to him, always walking ahead with a totally cold face, not even sparing him a single backward glance. There were way too many boys in school who liked her, and Tom was just too foolish. He did not know how to attract her real attention. He could only resort to picking stupid fights with her whenever she was on cleaning duty. He would throw trash in her exact designated area. When she was giving a major speech, he would make totally ridiculous faces from the audience to mess with her. When she played basketball, he would secretly let the air straight out of her bike tires. Over time, they became the most famous enemies in school. He thought that even if this made her completely dislike him, at least she would not like anyone else. As long as he could just see her every day, he would be satisfied. But this tragic thought, on the day David showed up and everything shattered, Tom would always remember that rainy day. Young Tom came home from school, only to find his own father openly hugging some strange woman. Right next to them stood a boy Tom's age. That was David. His dad actually moved this mother and son right inside, choking back fake tears. His father called her his first love. Back then, having no money meant their families forced them apart. But now, he was rich and he absolutely had to fix that broken dream. Even though this woman had a child with someone else, he demanded to divorce Tom's mother for her, and every single word was completely cold, leaving zero room for debate. Tom's poor, heartbroken mother. She cried the entire night over this betrayal. when morning finally came while nobody watched. She jumped straight off the rooftop, and less than 1 week after his mom passed away, his dad eagerly moved that first love right in. From that moment, Tom despised his father, he despised that woman, and honestly, he even more violently hated his stepbrother David. But stick with me, the most painful betrayal was still coming. One day, Tom went finding Clara at the library, only seeing her sitting right there with David. She leaned softly against his shoulder, gently kissing the corner of his mouth. In that instant, Tom's world shattered. Later, Clara's grandfather got seriously sick, forcing Clara to marry Tom, right after getting hitched. Clara stumbled upon the fact that Tom had drawn thousands of her portraits. Only then did she realize he had secretly loved her for years, but she honestly wasn't touched at all. Actually, she just assumed Tom intentionally said all those things around her grandfather to trap her into this forced marriage. From then on, their marriage turned into an absolute battlefield. Clara lit romantic sky lanterns for David, so Tom totally wrecked his limited edition race car. Clara took David on vacation. Tom forced every single hotel in the city to reject them. Clara threw an expensive birthday bash for David. Tom packed cockroaches and centipedes right into the cake. Finally, they struck a deal. Clara could go see David anytime, but every time she visited him, she had to share Tom's bed once. He just smiled and told her, "Clara, let us just torture each other forever for the rest of our lives." Yet only Tom knew this so-called mutual torture was honestly nothing more than him loving her way too much, unable to let go. And it wasn't until Tom died once that he finally learned some desperate loves simply do not get a happy ending. So in this regressed life, he wanted out, letting Clara, David, and all that deeply rooted pain vanish from his second life very quickly. A sharply dressed lawyer walked inside. "Mr. and Mrs. Tom, here is the divorce agreement." The attorney dropped the folder right on the table. "Please review it." "You too." Clara knew Tom used to love her to death. She absolutely refused to believe that he actually wanted a divorce. Honestly, she was arrogantly waiting to watch how he would back down. "But you and I know better." Next second, Tom signed his name with zero hesitation. Her heart skipped. She immediately grabbed the agreement, eyes frantically scanning the clauses on it. "Tom, are you serious?" Her voice sounded a little bit tense. Tom turned around, the corners of his mouth curling into a dark, mocking smile. "Of course it is completely real. What is wrong, boss?" "Clara cannot bear to let me go, cannot bear it." Clara looked like she heard a ridiculous joke. "Tom, this marriage is a prison to me. Every minute and every single second with." "All right, let's watch this unfold. Just sign it," Tom said softly. "What's the delay?" Hearing those words, Clara's face turned to stone. She snatched that pen and decisively signed her name on the divorce agreement. The sheer force showed absolute determination. She coldly tossed the papers right in front of him. "Tom, you better remember this. This was your choice. Do not regret it." The lawyer took the signed documents. Speaking professionally, he explained that legally, this divorce agreement requires a full 1-month cooling-off period. Once that period expires, both parties can officially receive their final divorce certificates. If either of you regrets this, you can cancel at any time. Clara let out a sharp sneer, staring at Tom with pure disdain. Cancel any time, so he was just playing the long game. She seemed to have it all figured out. Her tone was absolute. "Tom, if we really divorce in a month, I will chop my own head off for you to kick." After saying that, she turned and stormed off, completely decisive. She was so certain that he would regret it at the last second. "Now watch our boy." Tom just smiled gently. Clara was dead wrong. Not only did he want this real divorce, but in 1 month, he was going to leave this city and completely disappear from her world forever. Over the next few days, Tom ignored absolutely everything happening around him. He stayed home packing his bags, while Clara was busy spoiling David. Their perfectly sweet and loving life together was constantly flaunted all over social Media, they walked together on the beach, hugging sweetly right under the sunset. Having romantic candlelight dinners up in mountain restaurants and making wishes under the fireworks hand in hand on the streets, picking out perfectly fitting shirts and beautiful dresses for each other, and under every single post there were countless likes and comments. Clara and David are traveling again. Why? Are you two acting like you are in a honeymoon phase, flexing romantic dog food? On our feeds every single day, I do not even eat meals anymore. Your dog food is enough to make me full. Someone was definitely scrolling through social media every day, probably grinding their teeth in absolute jealousy. It was a pity that Tom could only drive a cheap car and would never ever win sister. Clara's heart, Tom knew she intentionally posted all of this just to provoke him in his past life. She completely succeeded every time he scrolled past these posts. He was so jealous and heartbroken that he lost sleep all night, but now, seeing these pictures, his heart was completely dead. Not a single ripple of emotion, because he had finally chosen to let go. Soon, Tom and Clara would never see each other again. 3 days later, her family hosted a massive banquet as scheduled. If it were before, Tom would never attend, but this time he went anyway. When he arrived at that villa, every single member of her family was already gathered. The grand hall was incredibly lively. Clara brought David along, warmly greeting all the elders. The kids surrounded them too, calling them uncle and aunt. Both of them smiled brightly. Meanwhile, Tom just stood watching from afar, trace of mockery in his eyes. He was clearly Clara's actual husband, but apart from her late grandfather, nobody in that entire family ever acknowledged his status. They all thought Tom had stolen David's place, so they always treated him coldly, never giving him a single ounce of respect. In his past life, he avoided trouble. Normally, our main character wouldn't even attend this family gathering, but coming today, he realized that completely behind his back, these people were already acting exactly like a happy family, smiling and harmonious. He firmly pushed open the heavy doors to the grand hall. Everyone snapped their heads toward the sound, but seeing him, those smiles instantly vanished. Clara's parents glared right at him with absolutely furious, dark expressions. Their voices dripped with sheer disgust. Didn't you want to divorce our Clara? So why are you here? David stared right at him, flashing a mocking half smile, purposely throwing some major shade. This isn't our brother's first time throwing a total tantrum. It is always all bark and absolutely no bite. And then he just begs Clara to take him back. I'm tired of these cheap tricks. He never quits. Clara heard this, frowned deeply, and turned around, glaring at him, her tone freezing cold. Even though we are still in the waiting period for the divorce, the papers are signed. You are no longer part of this family. You have absolutely zero right to be here. Clara's snobby relatives threw disgusted glances, chiming in from the sidelines. If the old man back then hadn't forced this ridiculous match, Clara would never have married him. She and David were so deeply in love, a perfect match, a beautiful future ruined entirely by this guy. Exactly. Clara always hated him, yet he loves to play hard to get. He is truly despicable, utterly pathetic. Now watch this. RMC just stared at Clara's family standing before him. They were so incredibly cold, hostile, and endlessly sarcastic. A bitter chill ran right through him. He clenched his fists, desperately trying to suppress the surging emotions inside his chest, sweeping a freezing gaze across the room. You don't need to panic. I didn't come here today for your little family banquet. I have absolutely zero interest in that. I came to honor grandfather. Light a single stick of incense, and then I am gone. Hearing this very basic request, the family had absolutely no excuse to kick him out. They just put on cold faces, letting him walk to the ancestral hall entirely alone. After paying his deep respects, he pulled out the heirloom grandfather gave him back when he first got married. He placed it gently on the urn. Grandfather, his voice was a whisper. The words practically faded into the thin air, as if terrified of waking him from his slumber. You once said that by marrying Clara, I would always have someone to Stand by my side for life. A bitter, painful smile curled onto our hero's lips, but you didn't tell me. Turns out, being constantly tortured by the one you love actually hurts way more than being completely alone in the world. Clara hates me. She sees this whole marriage as pure torture. In my past life, I died a truly miserable death, so this time I am finally letting go. Don't worry about me anymore. Life is long. In this second chance, I will thrive. He stood in front of the memorial tablet for a long while, speaking quiet, heartfelt words. Then suddenly, the sharp click of leather shoes right behind him, tapping against the floor. He slowly turned around and saw David marching aggressively toward him. He was too exhausted to even deal with this clown. He stood up to leave, but David sneered. He snatched the jade pendant right off the urn, before our MC could even react. David grabbed the family's sacred memorial tablet and viciously hurled it straight to the hard ground. The sandalwood instantly shattered into pieces. His blood ran absolutely cold. He fiercely lunged forward, grabbing David's wrist in a deadly vice grip. Are you crazy? Apologize to grandfather. David forcefully shoved Tom's hand away. A malicious smile twisted David's mouth. Apologize to who? You think this damn old man deserves it. If he hadn't meddled, that top position would be mine right now. Tom's voice trembled with rage. This is the grandfather Clara respects the most. If she knew you treated him like this, she'd know she was completely blind. Facing Tom's furious reprimand, David showed zero remorse. Instead, he just got even more smug. Oh, really? You respect this old guy that much? Listen, Clara doesn't care about you at all, Tom. You're exactly like your pathetic mother, just pitiful. You really might as well just jump off a roof and die. I bet she's waiting for you up there. Every single word felt like boiling oil pouring straight onto Tom's heart. The flames of his anger burned absolutely out of control, especially when he heard David insult his late mother. Tom just couldn't hold back anymore. He raised his fist and punched David right in the face. That smug smile instantly froze. He never expected Tom to actually fight back. You and I both know David had never experienced this kind of humiliation. His face turned completely pale with pure, insane rage. Acting crazy, he rushed forward, grabbing Tom's tie, and they ended up brawling in a tangled mess. But David was spoiled his whole life. He was no match for Tom at all. Every time David tried to throw a punch, Tom slammed him down. David was furious to the point of total madness. He quickly grabbed the grandfather's heavy urn and smashed it right against Tom's head. In an instant, Tom's forehead split wide open. Blood poured down. The intense pain made him blind. He collapsed heavily onto the floor, ashes scattering absolutely everywhere. The cold stones were instantly stained with his fresh blood. Lying there helplessly, Tom's throat suddenly let out raw cries of pure despair and agony. This massive commotion quickly attracted everyone in the hall. We're about to see things get worse. The smashed urn, the broken tablet, everyone froze. Clara's face was as dark as a storm cloud. She stared at Tom coldly. Tom, what kind of mess are you making now? This is the ancestral hall. Is this how you pay respects to grandfather? Tom was in so much agonizing pain he couldn't speak. Meanwhile, David acted completely pitiful, quickly speaking up to frame Tom. Clara, I just thought Tom's jade pendant was beautiful, so I only wanted to borrow it too. Take a look, but he suddenly raised his hand and punched me. I tried to hit back. He grabbed the urn and grandfather's tablet to smash me. I tried to dodge, so I pushed him. Who knew he'd clumsily fall like that? Hearing his twisted version of the story, the entire Clara family turned to look at Tom, each of their glares wishing they could turn into sharp knives to slice him apart. In an instant, the whole room was aggressively condemning and cursing Tom. Some even demanded bringing out the family discipline tools to punish him right then and there. Clara waved her hand toward the servants. They immediately brought out the heavy family whip, completely soaked in tongue oil, causing a massive uproar in the ancestral hall. This is the first offense, destroying an elder's sacred tablet and urn. This is the second offense. Attacking a guest without any reason, that's the third offense. These combined crimes demand severe punishment. Clara, Tom suddenly raised his bloody head, eyes burning with absolute anger. You didn't even ask, but before he could finish, the first lash fell. A brutal strike hits his back, completely cutting off his desperate words. He trembles in agonizing pain, but still stubbornly grits his teeth. It was clearly David who actually attacked him first. The second heavy lash follows closely. He struggles to rise, but gets completely pinned down by two massive bodyguards. With fiercely bloodshot eyes, he roars, "Clara, are you entirely blind?" It was clearly David, the enforcer, executing the 30 lashes. Shouts loudly. The whip strikes down, biting into his raw back like a venomous snake. Fresh blood quickly soaks his clothes. He gets dizzy from pain, but our guy stubbornly holds his head high, glaring straight at Clara. He watches Clara gently adjusting David's tie, acting perfectly careful as if treating an absolute priceless treasure. This brutal sight actually hurts him way more than the literal whip, sending a mouthful of blood straight up his throat. The final lash falls. He simply cannot hold on anymore and collapses heavily. Right before completely blacking out, he hears Clara's absolutely cold voice ordering them to throw him out and not dirty the ancestral floor. When his eyes finally open again, he finds himself lying in a massive, cold villa, completely surrounded by absolute silence. But that intense burning pain from his back instantly reminds him that those 60 lashes were totally real. This was a direct punishment personally ordered by Clara herself. He twitches his lips, trying to sit up, but unfortunately aggravates his fresh wounds. He gasps out loud, eyes turning red. Remember, this is the woman he loved for 12 whole years. He forces himself up, shakily wrapping his bandages. As the sharp disinfectant and gauze hit his torn flesh, he bites his lip. Even though his insides feel destroyed, he refuses to cry out. You and I have to respect that. When he finishes treating himself, sweat completely soaks his pajamas, leaving very dark stains all over the bed sheets. For an entire week after that nightmare, he acts exactly like a walking corpse. Trapped in bed, the severe wounds on his back finally scab over. One tiny movement easily rips them right open again. And get this, Clara never visits him a single time. Meanwhile, toxic text messages from David arrive, exactly like a snake spitting poison, constantly flooding his phone. Clara took me to an auction today. She paid top dollar for the most expensive diamond watch just for me. Look, is the design not beautiful? In 2 days, it is our 6-year anniversary. She specially planned a huge yacht party for us. Not only that, there are also custom couple rings she personally designed to gift me. With a totally blank expression, our main character deletes every single petty message. He quietly starts packing up anything related to Clara, photos he secretly took of her before, those innocent youth love letters she never even opened, that pristine white dress he bought that she completely ignored. He just smiles mockingly at his own foolishness, packs these memories up and trashes them. Now, you and I need to watch this. At that exact moment, the door is shoved open. Clara walks right in and catches him throwing all her stuff away. A very cold, dangerous glint flashes in her eyes. She asks if he is seriously playing hard to get to the point of intentionally picking the exact time she returns to trash things. She mocks that he really put insane effort into this act. He does not even look up, continuing to toss things away in the bin. He replies, "Act or not, you will know in 15 days. You remember the date that clearly," she actually sneers. "You are not counting down days, are you?" Yes, he finally looks right at her. A completely genuine smile appears on his pale face. Long time no see, he admits, counting down every single day, eagerly waiting for the exact day he can completely escape her forever. Hearing this absolute rejection, Clara's arrogant face instantly. "Tom, you are completely worthless." Clara's eyes darken with absolute, icy disgust. "You actually think I'd ever believe you?" Tom stares right back at her. "Your choice." His voice drops, deadly quiet, but packed with absolute iron resolve. Clara, this time, I really don't need you, seeing his totally unbreakable gaze. Something sharp actually pierces Clara's chest. She opens her mouth to say something. But right then, David's video call rings. Clara just stares at Tom. A long, heavy silence. Finally, she decides Tom just isn't worth her time anymore. Turning toward the study, Tom finishes packing up his very last things. Grabs his bag and walks right out. Today is his birthday and his loyal friends. Threw him a massive party like always, surrounded by their loud, chaotic laughs. Tom finally forgets the drama. For the first time in forever, he genuinely laughs. But listen, happiness in these stories never lasts, just as they're cutting. The cake, bam, the VIP doors are kicked wide open, and guess who? Clara. She marches right in with David and her whole toxic crew. They sneer. Looking around in pure disgust. A birthday party. Oops, sorry guys. We're taking this room. Do us a massive favor and get out. Facing them. Tom completely freezes. His fingers grip his champagne glass so insanely hard. His knuckles turn completely white, looking at their straight-up evil smirks. Tom realizes instantly they came here specifically just to ruin his night. No peaceful birthday for him. His friends realize it too, but to protect him. They refuse to back down. Excuse me, let's make this clear. We booked this. We were here first. If anyone is getting kicked out, it's you. Seeing this, Clara's friends just laugh. One of them actually whips out a real estate contract and slams it right on the table. Look closely, this entire building just got bought by Clara. We kick out whoever we want, if you're smart. Leave right now before we literally throw you out like actual garbage. Tom's friends are absolutely furious, ready to swing, but he pulls them back. He stares dead at Clara. Buying the building doesn't break our lease. This club still has plenty of empty rooms. Clara stays totally silent, but David. He steps up. Oh, but I want this exact room. He grabs Clara's arm. Whining like a total brat. Clara, I love the decor here. Kick them out. She doesn't even blink. Clean it out. Just like that, her goons move in. They instantly start trashing the entire VIP room. The balloons, Tom's loyal friends. Spend hours preparing, popped, the fresh flowers, brutally crushed right under their shoes. The birthday cake hits the wall, frosting splattering everywhere, and Tom's memories. Ripped to absolute shreds. Clara, you psychotic witch, his friends scream out. Absolutely losing it, Tom finally hits his limit. He sprints forward, trying to save one last photo, but gets violently shoved back. In the madness, someone rams into him. Tom trips, falling straight toward David, and David fakes a pathetic, exaggerated scream. Clara's eyes turn ice cold. She pulls David behind her, keeping him perfectly safe, and shoves Tom away with brutal force. Watch closely. Tom loses his balance, crashing backward into the champagne tower. Crash, hundreds of heavy glasses shatter, raining down like a deadly glass storm. Freezing alcohol and fresh, warm blood completely soak his suit. The brutal pain from glass shredding his skin makes everything fade to black. Drag him out, Clara commands. Cold as ice, two guys grabbed Tom's hair and dragged him out, slamming his head down. He hit the steps over and over, blood everywhere, fresh red stains completely soaking his clothes, leaving a dark trail right on the ground. Tom's vision started blurring fast, his ears ringing right before he blacked out, and the very last thing he saw. Clara gently fixing David's messy hair, looking at him like he was some rare, priceless treasure. Who knows how much time passed? Our guy finally woke up, finding himself staring at a hospital ceiling. His buddies were watching over him, their eyes absolutely blazing with pure anger. They asked him flat out, Tom, are you seriously avoiding divorce? Clara humiliated you on your own birthday. This whole mess doesn't even look like a real marriage anymore. She treats you like pure garbage. Do you actually want to stay with her? Tom just looked down, subconsciously rubbing the heavy bandages wrapping his arm. It throbbed with brutal pain, completely matching his shattered, broken heart. He just couldn't live like this anymore. When he spoke, his voice sounded totally exhausted. He told them he already filed for divorce. just a dozen days left in the mandatory cooling period. Once he gets that official paper in hand, he is gonna be completely, totally free. Really, his friends practically jumped, grabbing his hand in shock. Absolute hype, he finally snapped out of it. Tom has the height, the looks. For years he gave that woman his entire soul, and what did he get in her eyes? There's only David, she is totally blind. Honestly, it is so damn good he woke up and dumped Clara. You and I both know with his solid stats he could pull anyone. They promised that once he's officially single, they would line up 100 top-tier girls, perfect figures, absolute stunners. He could take his pick and date anyone. The boys were just laughing and joking, having a great time. Nobody heard the heavy footsteps right outside, not until the hospital door slammed wide open. Tom looked up, instantly locking eyes with the freezing, dead glare of Clara. She raised her voice, mocking him. 100 top-tier beauties. Tom, do you really think you are that amazing? Tom never expected her to just show up. There he froze for a quick second but quickly got his cool back. Whether he is great or not, what does that matter to her? He never threw a fit when she ran off playing house with David, so whether he goes on blind dates or how many women he sees, it is none of her business. Clara glared right at him, clear annoyance flashing deep in her eyes. She snapped that it was none of her business, but strongly advised him if he wanted to date around, he better wait for that official divorce certificate first, otherwise she finds him completely disgusting. Tom didn't flinch, just nodding along like he completely agreed, dead on. He planned to date like crazy once he got the paperwork. He told Liam to line up 7 gorgeous girls. He was gonna go out with a different one every single day, 0 repeats for a week. Seeing that he actually had the guts to do it, Clara looked completely stunned. A massive wave of anger just exploded inside her. Out of nowhere, she yanked out the massive property division papers her lawyer had just sent over, and she chucked them right at Tom's chest. Fine, she yelled that she would wait for the divorce. Bring your 7 girls, go on your little dates right in front of her, show up on time, and hand the papers over himself. After dropping that, she stormed right out without even looking back. Tom just watched her leave. He picked up the contract and scanned through it, confirming every single asset she owned was split right in half. For him, only then did Tom stash the papers in his bag. After seeing his friends off, he handed that massive property agreement straight to his lawyer, selling off all the real estate, luxury cars, yachts, and stocks. He converted absolutely everything into pure cash. Watching those account numbers skyrocket, his heavy heart finally started to settle down. With this kind of money, he could easily live in total peace. For the next few days, Tom just stayed in the hospital recovering. The day he got discharged, he went home alone. And guess what? Clara and David were busy kissing passionately in the empty living room, right under the warm yellow lights. David had Clara entirely wrapped in his arms. Her slender fingers gently caressed his face. She leaned down and kissed his neck lingeringly. That kind of tender look was something Tom had not seen from her in 12 whole years. He slammed the door hard, totally startling those two people caught up in the moment. Clara whipped her head around, the deep tenderness in her eyes instantly froze into solid ice the second she realized it was him standing there. What kind of crazy spell are you under now? Tom stood rigidly by the door, his fingertips digging so deep into his palms, but he still forced a tight smile. Can I say it looks totally disgusting? Disgusting. Clara actually sneered, her thumb casually wiping across David's slightly swollen lips. Then you begging me to kiss you. Before, wasn't that way more disgusting? Tom just chuckled lightly. Yeah. Back then he was completely blind. He looked up, his eyes entirely clear, but now his vision was perfectly cured, so he raised 3 fingers, speaking every single word very carefully. I, Tom, swear that if I still love Clara, I will die a horrible death. Clara's pupils immediately contracted, her heart feeling like it was completely crushed. She definitely did not expect him to make such a venomous vow. A totally nameless fire burned wildly in her Chest, Clara, David tugged at her sleeve, whining softly. I am so hungry. Clara took a very deep breath, desperately suppressing the anger in her heart. She gently patted David's head. Okay, I will go cook for you. As she turned around, she glared right at Tom. He did not even bother looking back while heading upstairs, his resolute back made her feel incredibly annoyed. Down in the kitchen, she absently chopped vegetables, ringing in her ears. Those words, die a horrible death, just kept endlessly echoing. The sharp blade nearly sliced her fingers. For the next few days, Tom never stepped out of the house at all. He waited until the final day of the divorce cooling off. His old high school classmates actually organized a massive reunion, thinking this might be the very last time they all meet up. Tom finally decided to see his old classmates. Now watch this. The second he pushed open that room door, the familiar sounds of loud laughter and chatter hit him. The class monitor, Jia Heng, was the absolute first to notice him, immediately standing up in surprise. Tom, you're here. He just smiled and nodded, looking a little puzzled. Right as he sat down in an empty seat, the classmates all around him absolutely could not wait to gather around. Tom, we heard you actually married Clara. Is it true or false? Weren't you two basically like oil and water back in high school? Yeah, you guys used to argue every single time you met. How did you suddenly get married? Is it just fake news? Tom's fingers subconsciously stroked the smooth rim of his wine glass. The icy cold sensation totally brought him back to reality a bit. He simply curled his lips, revealing a perfectly calm smile. We got married, sure, but we're going through a divorce right now. That one sentence was basically like dropping a massive ice block into boiling water. Inside the private room, the atmosphere instantly fell completely silent. The classmates just stared at each other, total bewilderment. Everyone's forced smiles instantly vanished. Someone cleared their throat, super awkward. Another guy just stared at his drink. The silence was painfully heavy. Finally, someone let out a massive sigh. Such a shame, the only high school sweethearts who made it. Another person just had to ask, why the sudden divorce? I thought you completely adored Clara. Now, other people might have missed it, but one guy spoke up. You always picked fights with her, just trying to get her attention, right? We all noticed it, chimed another. You and I can tell. He was stunned. He never expected his darkest high school crush to be this blindingly obvious. How did you all know? He asked, and oh boy, that opened the floodgates. The whole table instantly started gossiping, like absolute crazy. It was obvious. Remember junior year, those girls got super jealous of Clara's looks and perfect grades, one classmate recalled. They started spreading nasty rumors. When you found out, you completely lost it. You marched in and attacked every single one of them. Your dark aura back then completely terrified us. But here is the craziest part. Right around when your mother passed away, you were totally broken. Then we heard Clara got into a bad crash. She needed blood. Without hesitating, you sprinted to the hospital and donated until you literally passed out. Oh wait, what about the graduation trip? Someone shouted. Clara's camera dropped into the freezing lake. It had all her crucial contest files. You dived straight into the icy water without a second thought. That was dead of winter. You caught a massive fever and stayed stuck in the hospital for weeks. If that is not true love, what is? Listening to these forgotten legends being dragged back into the light, our MC felt his chest squeezing tight. Those raw teenage emotions he tried so hard to bury were now flashing before him like a movie montage. He gripped his glass, knuckles turning bone white. His throat felt incredibly dry. He couldn't force out a single word. Excuse me, he finally mumbled, standing. Just hitting the restroom to splash some water on my face. When he returned, he reached for the handle, but Clara was right there, staring at him with this intensely complicated look. All that stuff they mentioned, she started, her voice sounding heavy like it carried years of weight. Was it all actually true? His heart violently squeezed, pure panic, but he threw up a cold smirk. True or false, who cares anymore? After all, you only love David, right? Clara's brow twitched, but he didn't stick around for her comeback. He shoved past her. He had seen the class. He had seen Clara. Time to bail. He gave a quick goodbye to the group and left alone. But right as he stepped outside the hotel, Clara's car stopped dead before him. The tinted window slowly slid down, revealing her completely flawless side profile. "Get in, no emotion, total ice queen. We need to talk," she ordered. He quietly slid into the back seat. The interior carried that familiar hint of cedar wood, the exact fragrance he used to go absolutely crazy for. But now, breathing it in, his heart stayed dead quiet, not one single flutter. They sat inches apart, but you can feel that invisible wall between them. Absolute silence hung in the air for a minute, until that familiar. "All right, watch closely." The upscale villa area appeared. Clara suddenly spoke up, her fingers slowly tightened their death grip on the steering wheel. "Just how long are you going to keep causing this scene?" Her voice held a hint of awkwardness Tom had never heard before. He just dodged the question and sneered, "What scene am I causing? Clara, do you not understand simple words? I'll tell you one more time, I really want." A piercing ringtone cut him off. Clara pressed the answer button, a screaming voice mixed with David's crying, echoing loudly throughout the car. "Clara, I'm at the Night Color Club room 1201, come save me quickly." Clara's expression completely changed. The steering wheel jerked hard in her hands, sending the tires into a piercing screech. While desperately comforting David on the other end of the line, she crazily blew past dozens of red lights. The speedometer needle just kept rising. The car slammed on its brakes outside the Night Color Club. Clara almost kicked her door open and bolted. Tom followed her straight up to the 12th floor. Now brace yourselves. What awaited them was a totally insane, elaborate proposal scene. The floor was buried in rose petals. Romantic candlelight flickered everywhere. David stood there trembling, backed into a corner, his super expensive suit wrinkled like actual trash. Blocking him was a woman in a long dress, looking totally unhinged. The fruit knife in her hand glinted under the dim lights. Her voice was hoarse. "David, Clara is already married. She can't give you a real status. I've chased you for years. Why won't you just give me a chance? If you refuse to be with me today, then we both die right here." When David spotted Clara at the door, he clung to her like a lifeline. "Clara, you're finally here. Jenna is forcing me to be her boyfriend. If I don't agree, she'll actually kill me. Please save me." Jenna heard his cries and slowly turned her head. Seeing Clara standing there, she stared in shock, growing even more agitated. "Clara, don't come any closer, or don't blame me when I snap." Clara wasn't scared of her at all, but she was terrified Jenna might hurt David. She could only raise both hands and step back slowly, trying to keep her voice sounding totally calm. "Jenna, I know you love David, but he doesn't love you. Forcing him to date you like this won't ever bring you real happiness." Hearing Clara's advice, Jenna's eyes flashed red. She raised the knife, pointing the blade right at Tom, who stood right behind Clara. "Well said. You don't love Tom, didn't you? Still marry him anyway. If you can endure a miserable life with Tom, why can't David marry me?" Clara's expression darkened slightly, her voice turning ice cold. "It's exactly because I know how it feels marrying someone you don't love. That's why I'm warning you about forcing someone who isn't yours. Every minute, every single second of that marriage feels like a prison. It traps you to death, draining everything. You still can't escape. You really like David, but do you seriously want to force him into marriage, only to suffer exactly like me, living a whole fake life without any true feelings?" Tom stood silently in the shadows, his fingertips digging so deeply into his palms. He already knew their arranged marriage was a total prison for her, but hearing her admit it out loud, that every second beside him was torture, his heart violently stung like it was being crushed by an invisible hand, hurting intensely. But Clara's brutal honesty didn't convince Jenna, who, seeing David completely refuses to back down. Jenna's eyes go wild, her patience totally snapping. She screams out loud, "I am not listening. I just know I Want you, David. If we cannot be together, then we are dying right here. The tip of Jenna's blade flashes with deadly intent. Suddenly, she swings her arm hard, thrusting straight at David's chest, but in a split second, Clara rushes forward, shielding him completely. Tom watches his wife take a brutal stab to the lower stomach. Dark red blood instantly ruins her beautiful dress, that long white gown Tom had carefully ironed for her. David lets out a completely agonizing, terrified scream. Clara's face immediately drains of color. Cold sweat drips down her shaking forehead. Yet she stubbornly stands her ground, desperately shielding David. Jenna's gripping wrist turns entirely white from the massive force. Then, cops smash through the heavy door, rushing inside to finally take Jenna down. Clara loses her grip, collapsing right onto the hard floor. Still, she desperately keeps David safely tucked behind her back. David grabs her tight, crying absolutely uncontrollably. Please do not die. Tomorrow I can get a quick divorce. We can finally be together. Just hold on, Clara weakly smiles up at Tom, who stands completely frozen nearby. Her voice drips with pure mockery. You cannot leave. Tom will never divorce me. He is just faking it right now. David, I love you. In my next life, I will absolutely pick you. I will never obey my grandfather again. Tom just stands there watching this tragedy, biting his lip raw. She is bleeding out, yet she still thinks he is acting. Clara, you are so incredibly wrong. The surgical room light finally clicks off entirely. 3 a.m., the exhausted doctor pulls down his face mask, sighing heavily. The knife missed her vitals. She got here exactly in time, just strict bed rest for a full month. You and I know what hurts most. Tom watches David rush into that hospital room. As Tom turns away, a faint voice echoes from inside the ward. Clara murmuring David's name. Back at his empty villa, Tom lies wide awake all night long. His suitcase sits open on the cold floor, everything meticulously packed up. When dawn breaks, Tom drags his heavy luggage straight to the local civil affairs bureau. Congratulations on your freedom, sir. The clerk hands him his official divorce papers. He rubs the crisp red booklet. 12 whole years of pure obsession finally coming to an end. Tom slowly pulls the silver wedding band off his finger, dropping the divorce certificate inside a velvet gift box he prepared earlier. That stubborn pale ring mark on his skin looks obvious, just like Clara did, burning a permanent mark into him. Deep, yes, but it will fade eventually. Back at the hospital, Clara rests comfortably, leaning against her pillows, casually reading. Spotting Tom walking in, she ignores him completely, acting like she fully expected this visit. Up early, huh? Did you run off to the marriage bureau this morning just to cancel our divorce paperwork again? She flips her document to the next page. The arrogant patient on that bed speaks with an icy, calm tone. Tom, let me be clear, my patience is zero. This is the absolute last time I accept your dramatic nonsense. Tom does not say a single word, simply handing her that velvet box directly. His eyes staring down are dead calm. Whether I am causing drama or not, you will see once you check this gift. Let's see her reaction. Clara looks up, assuming it is an apology. But as her fingers brush the soft velvet, panic hits her with an unexplainable wave of terror. His gaze feels so completely dead and cold, turning him into a stranger. You and I see it. She stared into his eyes, finding absolutely nothing. The warmth from before completely gone. Then a ding. Her phone suddenly lit up. David's picture popped right up on the screen. He texted, I made the porridge you love. I am on my way. Wait for me. A small smile crept onto her lips. Those weird, unsettling feelings from a second ago instantly swept completely away. Okay. Enough drama for today, she told Tom. Leave. I do not want your little gift. She casually tossed the box right onto the bedside table with a loud thud. David is coming soon and he hates you. Tom just stood right there, completely frozen. He watched the sunlight filter through those window curtains, quietly casting little glowing streaks across her perfect face, those exact same eyes and eyebrows that once drove him completely crazy with love. Right now, they did not make him feel Anything at all. 12 whole years of devotion ended right here. Goodbye, Clara. That was all Tom finally said. He walked out of that hospital totally alone, dragging his luggage straight to the airport and boarding his flight. Then he simply blocked all of Clara's social media completely. For the rest of his life, Tom would never love her again. From this moment on, they were worlds apart. Heaven knew that they would never cross paths again. Clara stayed in that hospital recovering for 2 whole weeks. David visited every single day, rain or shine, always tender, always super attentive, taking perfect care of her needs. But honestly, she constantly felt this weird empty space in her chest, like something huge was just missing. After that day, Tom truly never ever appeared in front of her again. Clara honestly did not care at first, but eventually she started getting restless. She caught herself just zoning out, staring right at her hospital room door, almost like she expected somebody to push it open and walk inside. But the guy she was waiting for never showed up. Clara, eat some soup. I specially had the maid stew this black chicken soup at home. It is perfect for getting your energy levels back up. David scooped out a big spoonful of the soup. He blew on it super gently until it cooled down, then carefully brought the spoon right to her lips. She opened her mouth like a robot, eyes automatically darting right toward the door again. Clara, what are you staring at? David definitely noticed her weird behavior, his sweet smile freezing up a bit. Are you waiting for somebody? Who? Well, they both completely knew the answer. Clara instantly denied it. No, she looked away, her tone perfectly calm. But you and I know. David saw right through it. He bit his lip, playing the victim here. Clara, are you seriously waiting for Tom to visit? Clara frowned, snapping right back. You are overthinking this. Why would I wait for him? Oh, really? I just find it super weird. David looked down, his voice staying gentle, but it felt loaded with sharp thorns. Tom obviously knows you got hurt, but he has not visited you a single time, not even one phone call. When Clara heard his exact words, her fingers squeezed tight under the blanket. He was right. Looking back at Tom's old personality, if she even coughed once, he would absolutely freak out, totally worried and asking a million questions. But now, she practically got stabbed to death, and Tom only came to drop off some random box before vanishing like a ghost. Could it actually be that he seriously did not care anymore? Get this, that exact thought completely ruined her mood. She was immediately incredibly frustrated. David noticed her face drop. Something was wrong. He instantly softened his voice to comfort her. Hey Clara, do not be sad. Tom is probably just way too busy right now. Clara let out a cold laugh. Busy? Doing what? All right, what is Tom doing? A dark, calculating glint flashes in David's eyes. Pretending to hesitate, he whispers, maybe Tom already found someone new. Didn't he just say he wanted to collect a bunch of top-tier beauties? Clara abruptly cuts him off. Her face darkens dangerously. David acts completely startled by her anger, playing the victim. Clara, I am sorry. I meant absolutely nothing by it. I just hate seeing him deceive you. Clara takes a deep breath, pushing down her growing annoyance. She forces a stiff smile. My fault. It is nothing. Let us drop the subject. But deep down, she simply cannot shake the image of Tom's eyes from her mind. When he left, they were so calm, so distant, like their years together meant absolutely nothing. Fast forward to the day of her hospital discharge. Clara is visibly impatient, rushing straight back to the villa and throwing the front door open. The house is completely dark and dead silent. Zero signs of life. Frowning, she calls out Tom's name. Total radio silence. She flicks the lights on and reality hits her. Every piece of furniture is coated in a thin layer of dust. Tom clearly has not been home in a very long time. Walking into the living room, her sharp gaze lands right on a small velvet box, the exact gift Tom left behind before vanishing. Earlier, her assistant had asked if they should just throw it away or return it. Clara acted like she did not care, but eventually ordered her to keep it anyway. Now, moving like a woman possessed, she reaches out and grabs the box. Tom's parting words suddenly echo right in her mind. You will know if I am playing games once you look at this gift. The box feels practically weightless in her trembling hands. Holding her breath, she finally pops it open. Inside, a wedding ring and a divorce certificate. Clara's pupils shrink instantly. An invisible hand violently squeezes her beating heart. What is happening? Hands shaking, she flips the certificate open. It bears the official government stamp, the date, the exact same day she got injured. Clara stares dead at the small red booklet. Her fingers absolutely will not stop shaking now. Tom was not faking this. He was not playing hard to get. He genuinely did not need her anymore. Clara stands frozen in the entryway, clutching the divorce papers so hard her knuckles turn white. She is trembling, gripping it desperately. The red and gold certificate practically mocks her under the hall lights, giving off a cold gleam. That bright red official stamp looks like a brutal burn mark, a permanent scar announcing the end of her marriage. She flips it over frantically, checking it again and again, desperately, hoping Tom just forged the document to scare her. But the heavy, textured paper feels undeniably real. All their years together, can he really just drop it? Just like that, this terrifying question loops endlessly inside her spiraling mind. Taking a massive breath, Clara forces her racing heart to calm down. Then she grabs her phone, calling her assistant with a dead, cold voice. Find Tom's exact location right now. Check flights, check high-speed trains. Pull hotel records, everything you can find. Bring it to me. The assistant has never heard Clara sound this utterly unhinged. She rushes to check, but half an hour later, the assistant's answer drops Clara into an icy abyss. Boss, Tom left exactly a month ago on an international flight. Destination unknown. Gone. Every single social media account deleted completely. His phone numbers and local bank cards were totally deactivated. Clara's hands gripped that phone so hard her knuckles turned dead white. She refused to believe it. Hanging up, she sprinted up to the second floor. She slammed the bedroom door open, but inside was just empty space. That bed was perfectly made, not one single wrinkle. The wardrobe was totally bare. Every piece of Tom's clothing gone. Over on the bathroom counter, his personal stuff had vanished too. Not one single trace remained. Just one lonely envelope sitting quietly on the table. It held only a few short words for Clara. Her hands shook violently. The sheer panic in her heart was practically drowning her now. She frantically ripped open the envelope. Inside was just one devastating line. Clara, this time I am really gone. I wish you nothing but happiness, zero resentment, no clinging, not even one extra explanation. Tom had just quietly faded out of her life. The bedroom door suddenly opened up again. A gust of wind blew that paper straight down. Clara, it was David. Watch this guy. He did not even hide his smirk. He definitely noticed Tom was finally gone. He was absolutely thrilled. His voice grew insanely excited, grabbing Clara's arm. Clara, this bedroom has the absolute best lighting. Let us take this room from now on, all right? He held her hand, smiling so brightly, his words could not hide his total impatience. He waited forever for this exact day. Clara snapped back to reality, staring at David's beaming face, feeling completely distracted. She mumbled out a response. Her eyes subconsciously drifted over to the single armchair right by the window. That used to be Tom's absolute favorite spot. He always curled up right there to read at noon, the soft sunlight filtering through those curtains used to fall on his hair, giving him this soft golden glow. Now that sofa was completely empty. David totally missed her, looking distracted. After getting Clara's okay later that afternoon, he dragged all his luggage over and moved in. He eagerly commanded the servants to change out the curtains, the furniture, and yes, even Tom's favorite chair was tossed out. Even the beautiful dishes Tom carefully picked out were swapped to styles David liked. This old plate set is way too old-fashioned. It totally does not match you, he laughed, tossing the china plates Tom gathered right into the trash. Clara watched those shattered pieces, feeling a sudden, sharp stab in her chest. Back then, Tom really cherished those delicate plates. He would look at her gently and say, "Clara, see this pattern? Does it remind you of the vines behind our old high school, and how did she?" Reply back then, she called it boring, but now she could not even mock him anymore. Late at night, Clara sat totally alone in her study, swirling a glass of whiskey. That liquor burned her throat, but it could not wash away the annoyance and deep confusion inside her. Once David moved into the giant villa, things got lively. Around there again, but she still felt a massive void. There was a time she thought she absolutely hated Tom being so clingy, hated his existence, but when he actually disappeared for good, she finally realized she missed him, missed every single early morning. When Tom used to place hot black coffee on her desk, the temperature always just totally perfect. She missed those late nights working, when he would quietly drape a warm blanket right over her shoulders. She even missed his stubborn eyes whenever they argued. This sudden realization made Clara's chest tighten uncomfortably. But what about David? He was always so attentive, obedient, and understanding, yet spending more time with him. Clara felt it. His perfection felt like a total act, completely manufactured. Even his little complaints felt like calculated chess moves. Case in point, right now, he stood by the massive floor-to-ceiling window looking down at the garden, a perfect smile on his face, ordering the gardener to plant his favorite agarwood trees. But right there, crushed under his designer shoes, lay the red sandalwood her husband used to plant, completely shattered, trampled until unrecognizable. Suddenly catching her stare, David glanced up. That perfectly handsome smile was still glued to his face, like the angle was mathematically measured. It hit her she never truly understood David, but stick with me, because the very next morning, Clara was tidying up the study when she bumped a stack of dusty documents. An old, worn notebook slipped out. She froze, completely confused. In all her memory, she had never owned a notebook like this. She bent down, grabbed it, and opened the very first page. Today, Clara skipped breakfast again. I secretly stuffed a sandwich in her desk. I hope she doesn't figure out it was me. Clara stopped breathing. This was her ex-husband's diary. He left it behind. She turned the page, hands literally shaking. Clara twisted her ankle at dance practice. I secretly put medicine in her locker. Ended up getting totally busted by her. She asked me with a completely deadpan expression if I was playing a prank. I acted tough. Saying yes told her to stay crippled. God knows my heart was actually aching. Bleeding. Next entry. Mom passed away. Dad moved that woman and David in openly. I hid in my room crying. My mind was just full of Clara. Could you please hug me? Next page. Our first anniversary. Clara went to find David again. I tossed the cake right in the trash, but around midnight, I couldn't help digging it back out. Ate the whole thing alone. It tasted like absolute garbage. Page after page, Clara's vision blurred with tears. Every single word in front of her carried true emotions, heavy and raw. It turned out completely out of her sight. He had loved her so humbly, so stubbornly, and yet she had completely trampled his genuine feelings under her feet, grinding them into dust. Clara violently slammed that diary shut, grabbed her car keys, and sprinted straight out the door. She needed the airport, had to check every single flight out, even if she had to flip the entire world upside down. She was going to find him. Now let's look at his side. He was just resting when suddenly, hearing frantic footsteps approach, he instinctively glanced up, only to spot a familiar figure desperately searching the courtyard. It was Clara, and in her eyes, pure, unadulterated panic and confusion. Seeing her, his heart violently jolted in his chest. He couldn't understand why she looked like that, but even if she found him, so what? What could she possibly say? An apology, a desperate excuse. Would he even believe her anymore? The night breeze blew past her, standing completely alone in that empty courtyard. A trace of crushing disappointment filled her eyes. We all know some things, once you lose them, they are gone forever. She dragged herself back to the study, collapsing into the leather chair by the massive floor-to-ceiling window. she slowly opened the diary again. Fingertips trembling violently, outside the window total darkness fell, the small desk. Lamp illuminated those yellowed pages. His faded handwriting felt like it was transcending time. Word by painful word, piercing right through her heart, she kept flipping, page after page, every. The diary held Tom's deepest secrets. Today in class, some guys were spreading vicious rumors about Clara behind her back. They claimed she cheated on her exams and only bought the student council presidency with her family's massive wealth. Hearing that, Tom was absolutely furious. He marched right up and fought them all. He got caught and stood outside all afternoon, but get this, he didn't even regret it. Nobody had the right to insult her. Reading this, Clara's breath hitched. She suddenly remembered that exact day. After school, she had seen Tom's battered face. He was totally covered in bruises, taking his hallway punishment. She had even coldly mocked him back then. Fighting again, Tom, can you stop acting like a thug? He had just lowered his head, staying completely silent. He took that beating for her, Clara's throat completely tightened up. She kept desperately flipping pages. Clara's brutal car accident. The hospital blood bank was critically empty, so I secretly went to donate. The nurse warned that drawing too much blood was dangerous, but Clara was still waiting for it, so I forced them to draw a full bag. Afterwards, I actually fainted. When I finally woke up, they said she was safe. Thank goodness. Clara's fingers suddenly gripped the diary hard. The paper crumpled in her trembling hands, almost snapping. She remembered that accident. When she had woken up, the doctor actually mentioned a male classmate stepping up to donate blood, but when she asked for his name, the doctor said he wanted to stay totally anonymous. All this time, it was actually Tom. He had literally crossed the line of death for her, never receiving a single word of thanks. Clara's chest felt like an invisible hand was brutally squeezing her heart. It ached so much she could barely breathe. Flipping further back into the diary, the handwriting became incredibly sloppy. It was as if Tom's emotions were totally spiraling. As he wrote the words, "Today is Christmas Eve, and it is also Clara's birthday. I secretly crafted a bamboo rabbit lantern for her. It took me a full month. My fingers got totally shredded by the bamboo, but in the very end, I still didn't dare hand it over. She'll definitely think it's just cheap trash." Clara forcefully slammed the diary shut, squeezing her eyes tightly. That specific handmade rabbit lantern, later on, she had actually found it stuffed inside a dusty storage room box. She genuinely thought it was just old junk left by a servant's kid and casually ordered someone to throw it away. But now, she finally realized that was Tom's entire heart and soul. She stood up slowly, dragging herself toward the massive glass window. Outside, the night felt incredibly heavy. The city lights flickered just like distant stars. But her vision completely blurred with tears. In her eyes, Tom was always just a willful, arrogant guy who wouldn't leave her alone. But the Tom inside this diary was humble, patient, and careful with every detail. He loved her to his very core. Yet never even dared to say the words, "I like you." She suddenly remembered their class reunion. All the old classmates were loudly gossiping, while Tom had just coldly denied everything. Then he walked away without looking back. He hadn't wanted her to know the truth. Why? Because he assumed she wouldn't care at all anyway. This crushing realization made Clara's heart violently clench. Now, stick with me here, outside the study. Shadowy figure was silently watching. It was David, peeking through that narrow gap. He saw Clara crying over Tom's diary. Furious, David dug his nails so deep into his own palms. A totally sinister look flashed across his eyes. "Tom, you're already dead and gone. Why is your ghost still haunting her?" Early the very next morning at the dining table, David holds his coffee, trying to play it cool. He opens his mouth. "Clara, while cleaning up yesterday, I found Mr. Tom left a ton of his junk behind. Want me to just trash it all?" Clara pauses, cutting her steak. Her voice drops, ice cold. "Just leave them there. Do not touch his things." David keeps a straight face, but a second later he fakes a heavy sigh. "I know, but Tom is really Something else, you two are divorced. Why didn't he pack his stuff? Only. This diary was left on purpose, like he is terrified you will not. Realize how much he loves you. Clara stays completely silent. She forcefully slams her silverware down on the table with a harsh, sharp clatter. She looks up her eyes absolutely freezing. David, watch your mouth. David actually flinches at her death stare. He never expected this kind of anger, scrambling to smooth things out. Clara, are you mad? I am just being honest here. Is he not playing the victim, trying to make you pity him? Clara actually sneers. Oh, then. When he bled for me, fought for me, dove into freezing water, where were you? David goes totally pale. He probably made all that up. Come on, you know. He is a total fraud. Enough. Clara suddenly shoots up. The dining chair screeches violently across the hardwood floor. She glares right down at David. Her gaze is colder than ever, her tone carrying a massive warning. David, do not make me regret letting you stay here. After dropping that bomb, she turns and walks out. David is left completely frozen, his face totally pale. Let's check on Clara. Outside in the garden, heavy emotions welling up inside her. For years, she thought Tom was the villain, ruining the bond between her and David. This guy she believed was her true love, yet he uses her most vulnerable moments just to openly slander Tom. She suddenly realizes she might have been completely wrong about everything. Staring at the distant horizon, she wonders, Tom, where are you now? After breakfast, Clara's chest feels like it got stabbed by thorns. Hearing David so maliciously insult Tom actually made her suspect David for the very first time. Words from their class reunion echo in her head, and suddenly, all of David's petty mocking remarks become incredibly grating. How dare he claim Tom's devotion was fake? Later, Clara stands in front of the massive window in her corporate office, slowly tracing the rim of her coffee cup. Her eyes look dangerously dark. She grabs her phone and dials her assistant. Investigate David. Her voice is pure ice now. I want to know his every move these past few years. 3 days later, the assistant drops a massive background check right on Clara's desk. She barely reads the very first page before her expression completely darkens. Her instincts were totally right. Trust me, David is way worse than anyone thought. Inside the files, there are detailed records of all his shady business deals over the years with some powerful businessmen. Worse, there is solid proof that he used Clara to quietly crush the Yang family's corporate rivals. But what shocks her to the core, the documents prove that every single time the relationship between her and Tom got worse, it was always right after David showed up. In high school, she and Tom were just normal enemies, but ever since David transferred in, Tom's attitude toward her mysteriously became much harsher. All right, let's trace this back. After Clara's accident, Tom secretly took care of her. But the moment she opened her eyes, David swooped in for the credit. He immediately lied. Tom doesn't care about you. He didn't even visit. After she and Tom married, their conflicts only grew violently intense. Looking back at it now, almost every single argument they had was sparked by David or a perfectly timed rumor from his friends. Clara's in a bad mood, go stay with her, or he'd play the perfect victim. Tom hates me, he just yelled at me, or Tom drugged my coffee entirely. Pure manipulation. Now Clara tightly grips a report, her knuckles turning completely white. A brutal, impossible truth is finally crashing down on her right now. She had been completely played by David for a full 10 years, pure betrayal. Even now, she struggled to fully process his absolute web of lies. But watch this, you and I are about to see everything change. Her friend Justin tracked her down, looking completely conflicted, handing her something. A voice recorder. I saw David at a bar, he said. You must hear this. She pressed play, after a few seconds of noisy, muffled bar static. The audio clears up. The next second, David's hauntingly familiar voice echoes out. He sounded totally drunk, chilling in a VIP room and laughing heartily with his friends. Justin honestly never intended to eavesdrop on them at all, but David's arrogantly sharp laughter and careless attitude made it utterly impossible to ignore. Clara, what kind of big deal is she? Just a useful pawn in my hands. David set his wine glass down, a sickeningly smug smile curling on his lips. Looking at his clueless buddies' faces, he let out a harsh, cruel laugh. Did you actually think I loved her? Don't be ridiculous, he sneered at them. Without her money and power, I'd never play this deeply devoted lover act. His buddies immediately erupted into loud, mocking laughter. Then someone asked him, "What about Tom? I heard he absolutely loves Clara to death." David laughed again, his eyes dripping with absolute contempt. Tom, he's an even bigger, stupider idiot. Loving her for years just to end up totally despised. He threw his head back. He took a huge gulp of his drink, the alcohol fueling his massive arrogance. Remember that massive disaster that happened back at their family's ancestral hall? I screamed Clara's name perfectly. I can spin whatever lie I want to her. She thought Tom bullied me, but I was the one who smashed the elder's tablet. And when that idiot Tom dared to try and get his petty revenge on me, Clara whipped him herself, 60 brutal lashes. Justin's face instantly turned totally pale. Sickened, Justin secretly recorded this whole conversation and quickly turned to leave. He immediately called Clara. After hearing the entire recording, she froze entirely. It was like she'd been struck by lightning. Her mind just went completely blank. Then pure, overwhelming fury violently surged up. She gripped the phone. She squeezed so hard her veins popped out, her eyes churning with murderous rage. Pure murderous intent. She forced every single word out through tightly gritted teeth. So the truth about that day at the ancestral hall was actually a lie. Those 60 lashes on Tom's back, David completely orchestrated the whole thing. What infuriated her most, she had been David's ultimate, unthinking accomplice. She vividly remembered that family banquet, remembered Tom's complete and utter helplessness. All right, watch this. Our guy collapses in a bloody pool, stubbornly holding his head. Eyes totally red, desperately trying to explain David attacked first, but Clara just assumed. He was just framing David. She gave him zero chance to explain. She personally shattered his love for her. Now, Clara suddenly stands up, furiously sweeping the wine. Bottle right onto the floor. Crash. A sharp pain shot straight up from her bleeding fingers, but honestly, she didn't even care, the pain in her heart was way worse. What's a tiny scratch? That night, Clara and her bodyguards marched straight to the villa and hammered on David's door. The very second the door swung open, before David could even fake a smile, he was violently grabbed by the throat. Clara's bodyguard slammed him incredibly hard against the wall. David. Her voice cold as absolute hell. David's eyes totally bugged out in sheer terror. His face flushed beet red from losing air. The heavy grip tightened, making his skin turn straight purple. Clara, what are you doing? Tell him to let me go. Clara just laughed coldly. She signaled the guard to drop him, then hit play on the recording on her phone. Hearing it, David's face instantly drained of all color. It's not what it seems. Listen to me. Someone is framing me, he frantically reached for Clara's hand, but she violently shoved him away, framing him. Clara's furious stare looked ready to rip him to pieces. Then what about these? She threw the heavy investigation report right in his face, papers scattering everywhere across the floor. How do you explain this? Someone framing you for this? 2. David hung his head, staring at those damning words. He instantly collapsed against the cold floor. It was over, all over. Clara stood tall, staring down at him in pure silence. One beat later, she turned away and walked out, cold, resolute. Left entirely alone, David was so incredibly terrified. His entire body violently shook. Bam! The heavy door slammed shut with an earth-shattering boom. David flinched hard, tears spilling out, but watch his eyes closely. They were filled with a twisted, terrifyingly dark look. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, Paris was enjoying the early morning glow. Golden sunlight filtered straight through those massive floor-to-ceiling windows into his beautiful apartment. Tom sat casually on the sofa, holding a steaming cup of coffee. Exhaling a soft breath, right outside, the Seine River sparkled like pure silver. The Eiffel Tower standing tall in that hazy morning light. Over here, there is. No Clara, no toxic David, just him. Tom lowered his head, sipping his coffee. A genuine smile slowly creeping up his face. So this is what freedom really tastes like. By his third month in Paris, Tom enrolled in this high-level advanced course at a design school. He already possessed raw drawing talent. Combine that with all the heavy emotions he had suppressed for years. He finally found his outlet. His design style was wildly unique, blending deep Eastern aesthetic vibes perfectly with the bold extravagance of Western art. This instantly grabbed the attention of his teaching assistant, Mr. Tom. Your work is absolutely amazing. The teacher held his sketch up, full of praise, specifically loving the dress cut, looking just like a butterfly breaking from its cocoon. Such a brilliant direction. Yes, breaking the cocoon, turning into a butterfly. Tom finally did it, finally escaping Clara's heavy shadow. Feeling incredibly capable, Tom went and rented a cozy studio over in Montmartre, hung up his own sign, meeting Jessica, total coincidence. They crossed paths at a local design exhibition. She is a Chinese designer who grew up in France. Her powerful family deals in high-end fabrics. Plus, she's actually a pretty famous designer herself. Watch this. That day, Jessica stopped right at his booth, looking around before finally pointing at a stunning dark red dress, asking him directly, where did the inspiration for this dress actually come from? Tom stared at the gown. It was a piece from when he first arrived in Paris. He had repeated that poem endlessly, nearly drowning in the heavy pain of his past, but he forced that agony into his future. Thus, this dress was born, a classic blood red, but embroidered across the skirt were brilliant golden butterfly wings. Flapping wildly, wanting to break the cocoon, Tom answered softly. Jessica looked at him, her eyes deep, and suddenly smiled. My name is Jessica. She extended her hand. Nice to meet you, designer of the broken cocoon. From that moment on, she became a total regular at his tailor shop, sometimes bringing rare, precious fabrics, sometimes just sitting quietly off to the side, watching Tom sketch out new designs. She never pried into his dark past, never crossed any lines. She just used a perfect, moderate gentleness, slowly melting away his heavy defenses. Then one quiet evening, she suddenly spoke up. Next month, there's an international fashion week. My brand has a slot. Do you want to come along? Tom was completely stunned. This was an absolute dream opportunity for countless designers. He looked up at her, but in her eyes he only saw pure admiration and encouragement. No pity, no hidden calculation. Just a genuine heart that believed entirely in his talent. His eyes burned slightly. Okay. For the next few days, Tom poured absolutely every ounce of energy into preparing for the fashion week. Right on the eve of the event, he went to the Shannas to pick out some accessories, but right in front of a luxury high-end boutique, he coincidentally heard a very familiar voice. Tom, the other guy exclaimed, staring at him. Completely wide-eyed, Tom froze, then he immediately recognized the face. Liam, his old high school classmate. Oh my God, it's really you. Liam excitedly grabbed his hand. What are you doing here? Liam looked him up and down, eyes full of utter surprise. The current Tom and the gloomy, silent boy from his memory were worlds apart. Tom was now rocking a simple white shirt and jeans, his face radiating a healthy, vibrant glow. But what really made people unable to look away were his eyes. Zero lingering humility left in there. Just the solid calmness and unshakable confidence of a castle. You look so different, Liam muttered in shock. Tom smiled lightly. Yes, because I finally learned how to love myself. Liam's eyes reddened. He suddenly reached out and gently hugged him tight. That's great. That's really great. Tom gently patted his back. The warm sunlight fully enveloped the two of them. His heart felt a genuine piece of softness. Then, on the day of the fashion week, his works were officially scheduled to debut. Finally, the models wearing the very dresses he designed walked onto the massive stage. The dark red silk moved like liquid blood, the golden butterflies flapping their wings under the lights, practically wanting to fly. Massive, thunderous applause erupted from the wild audience. Jessica stood right beside him, saying softly, "Look." Everyone is completely mesmerized. Tom looked at the stage, his own eyes slightly damp. At this moment, he was no longer just a copy of Clara, no longer a joke in David's eyes. He was just Tom, a man who finally found himself, a completely reborn Tom. Meanwhile, Clara stood in front of the huge floor-to-ceiling window, her cold gaze thoughtfully looking at the dead leaves outside. Right then, David pushed the door open and walked in, leather shoes stepping on the cold marble floor, making a heavy, dull sound. He called out softly, "Clara," forcing a totally ingratiating, fake smile onto his face. "Why are the lights off?" Clara didn't say anything. She just nonchalantly lowered her hand. Seeing her calm reaction, David slowly approached. He reached out, wanting to hold her hand, but she completely dodged it. The company has been insanely busy lately. He turned his head to check on her, a flash of pure unease in his eyes. Clara finally turned around, the corners of her lips curling into a little smirk. "Yes. A little busy." She raised a hand and gently stroked his cheek, her voice dripping with gentle contempt. "What is wrong, miss me?" David immediately felt the massive surge of joy. Since their big argument, she had not treated him like this in forever. He knew it. Clara absolutely could not bear to leave him behind. "Of course I missed you." He quickly took the chance to pull her into his arms. Whining like a child, "You have ignored me entirely lately. I seriously thought you were actually mad at me." Clara lowered her gaze to look right at him. Her eyes were pure ice, but her tone was so gentle it could make any person sink. "How could I ever?" She lowered her head. "I am just preparing a massive surprise. Just for you." David smiled, wrapping his arms around Clara in a tight hug. The silhouettes of the two stretched out under the lights, completely tangled up together, blending together. "Stick with me here." A week later, the Yang Corporation and massive enterprise suddenly plummeted into absolute disaster, a shattered capital chain. Business partners pulling their funding out of nowhere. Every single bank loan approval was randomly delayed. Even their oldest suppliers just completely halted deliveries. David's father was panicking to the point of breaking down, literally begging everywhere for help only to get rejected. "Who on earth is destroying us?" David's father violently slammed the table during the board meeting. Meanwhile, you and I know Clara was chilling in her office, reading the brand new report from her assistant. The Yang Corporation stock had completely crashed to a historic low. 3 separate subsidiaries in Ningxia were facing total bankruptcy, liquidation. The corners of her lips curled up slightly, but her eyes were entirely dead. "Very good, but you know what? It is just not enough yet." She placed a quick phone call, cold and totally ruthless. "Keep applying the pressure. I want the entire Yang family erased from existence. Daring to play games with her, they better be ready to pay the ultimate price." David finally noticed something was horribly wrong. He called Clara dozens of times, but was always redirected straight to the secretarial desk. Desperate, he rushed to her company to find her, only to get completely blocked by downstairs security. "Sorry, man, our boss." Clara ordered absolute 0 visitors. No visitors. What did she even mean? At this exact moment, it finally clicked. Clara's gentle act was literally just to make him completely drop his guard. Panicking, he frantically scrolled through his phone contacts, trying to beg anyone who could possibly help him out, especially those friends who previously acted so incredibly loyal to him. But right now, every single one avoided him like the plague. "Sorry, man, it is not that I will not help, but Boss Clara already spoke. Who actually dares to interfere now? Mr. Yang, I am totally powerless. You better go pray for yourself." In pure despair, David ran straight to Clara's villa, shouting outside her front door, "Clara, I know I messed up. Please spare my family. I am begging you." The heavy door slowly creaked open. Clara stood there, looking down at him. Her gaze was completely freezing, like she was staring at a corpse. "Clara." David crawled forward and desperately grabbed her leg, tears literally streaming down his face, looking so incredibly Pathetic, I really know I was so wrong. I will never ever lie to you again. Will you? Forgive you, Clara chokes back a sob. She grabs his chin, forcing him up. David, she whispers, her voice dangerously calm. Do you know my biggest regret? He trembles, frantically shaking his head. Clara sneers. It's a smile that screams pure nightmare. My biggest regret, she says, is not seeing your true, garbage face much sooner. She drops him and stands. Her voice drops below freezing. Because of you, I lost. The only man who truly loved me. I am going to make you pay a massive, agonizing price. David slumps onto the cold floor, his face completely drained. Of color, no, it cannot end like this, he begs. Clara, I truly love you. Clara just turns her back. She leaves him with one absolutely brutal sentence. Too bad. Your love is utterly worthless. Exactly 1 month later, the Yang Corporation officially declares bankruptcy. David's father gets arrested for massive commercial fraud. David sells every single luxury item, but still cannot clear his insane debts. He stands entirely broken outside his family's once luxurious mega villa, staring right at the court seal locked on the front gate. He totally breaks down, dropping to his knees. Meanwhile, Clara stands by her massive penthouse window, swirling a glass of amber liquor. The liquid catches the cold, harsh light in the room. Outside, the window neon lights flicker over the bustling, endless city traffic, but her own world feels dead. But stick with me here. The Yang family is finished. David's reputation is totally ruined. Crushed by debt, he went from wealthy young master to an absolute street rat. Everyone ignores him. She really should be happy now. But why does her chest feel so incredibly hollow? She throws back a massive gulp of liquor. It burns her throat, but cannot touch the freezing emptiness spreading inside her. Meanwhile, over in the chaotic conference room of the Clara Corporation, the top executives are just staring nervously. Clara sits right at the head seat, hair a total mess, eyes completely bloodshot, the reports in her hand. She violently slams them right onto the table. You bother me with this trash. She snaps, laughing coldly. Am I paying you all just to sit here and breathe my air? The entire room goes dead silent. Nobody even dares to speak a word. This is already the third blowout this month. Clara losing her mind. During meetings, ever since her husband Tom vanished, she became a totally different person entirely, addicted to drinking, reckless, ignoring the work. The massive company's foundation is literally crumbling. Shareholders complain daily, but nobody dares to confront her directly. A nervous assistant slides over a folder. Boss, this is the quarterly financial report that desperately needs your signature. But Clara does not even glance at it. She snatches a pen, scribbles carelessly, and growls, "Get out." The assistant practically sprints for the door, retreating out of the office. Alone now, Clara opens her desk drawer, pulls out a photo. It is their wedding photo. Tom wears a pure white suit, smiling so brightly, while she looks completely frozen, treating the marriage like an absolute chore. Looking back, we both know she was the fool here. Late that night, Clara drunk, she dials up her private investigator. Did you find him? Her voice sounds totally desperate. Silence on the other end. Then, boss. Clara, Mr. Tom's travel records were wiped clean on purpose. We simply cannot track him. Useless. Clara violently hurls her phone against the wall. The screen shatters instantly. Staggering to her feet, she grabs her car. Clara grabs the keys and rushes out. Tom's old apartment, always left totally guarded. Nobody lived there, but you and I know the truth. Clara uses the key to unlock the door. A faint, dusty smell instantly hits her face. Everything inside was left perfectly untouched. Tom's old woolen coat, still resting right there on the sofa. Nearby sits a design magazine he never quite finished reading. On the kitchen hook hangs his absolute favorite apron, like he just took a quick stroll and might return at any second. Clara literally falls to her knees on the cold floor, pure regret and alcohol torturing her. She hallucinates seeing Tom, completely breaking down. Her voice chokes up. She cries out she was wrong, pleading for him to return. Only the empty room echoes back. morning finally arrives. Clara wakes up freezing. Months of drowning in cheap drinks left her looking completely haggard, but those memories. Terrifyingly clear, she slowly stands up, taking one final look at this hastily rented space. She gently closes the door. If she could just find Tom again. If he gave her one more chance, she would dedicate her entire life to making it up to him. Meanwhile, winter in Paris hits unexpectedly. Tom pulls his scarf tighter. His breath turns into thick white mist, fogging the cold glass window into a total blur. The tailor shop heater is still completely broken. He rubs his freezing red fingers, pushing through to sketch those new design lines right onto the blueprint. After that crazy fashion week, his reputation absolutely soared. Countless massive invitations and crazy cooperation proposals literally flooded into his shop. Time was running out. He buries his head at the desk, his pen making quick scratching sounds. Then, the doorbell rings unexpectedly. Jessica stands right at the door. Her dark woolen coat is dotted with fresh snowflakes. She holds 2 steaming cups of coffee. The tip of her nose is slightly red from the freezing cold. Tiny water droplets cling to her eyelashes. In the morning light, looking exactly like scattered diamonds, she teases him, saying, "A certain designer stayed up late again." She gently hands Tom one of the coffee cups. Her hand accidentally brushes right against his, a caramel macchiato with light milk. She actually remembered. That is the exact taste Tom loved since his student days. Even Clara never really remembered it. As the hot coffee warms his hands, he notices something. A crooked little butterfly is drawn on her sleeve. He asks if she drew it. Jessica just leans closer to show him, explaining the wings and antenna. She gets just a little bit closer. The scent of cedar and cold winter air hits his face. He suddenly notices her right earlobe. There is a tiny mole perfectly hidden under her dark hair, looking just like a mysterious little star. She reminds him to drink. Tom hurriedly lowers his head to take a quick sip. He looks up and she suddenly reaches out, wiping a coffee stain from the corner of his mouth. Her hand just touches him lightly, then pulls away. Their eyes lock, completely stunned. Outside the window, the capital's first snow falls silently. Stick with me, because right before Spring Fashion Week, a massive rainstorm hits. As Tom stands anxiously in front of the exhibition center, a black umbrella suddenly shields him from behind. She knew he would forget an umbrella. The right shoulder of Jessica's jacket is already completely soaked. She brushes it off. Her car is parked nearby. Rainwater pulls into streams on the stone street. Jessica, wearing high heels, walks. She slipped. Suddenly, she was falling completely into his arms. He grabbed her waist tightly. The umbrella swayed wildly in the cold rain. Rain splashed between them. Through their soaked sleeves, he could actually feel her warm body heat, her rapid heartbeat pounding against him. Thump, whose heart was beating faster. They both opened their mouths to speak, but froze completely. Finally, Jessica smiled softly and whispered, "Should we count to 3 and say it together?" Through the thick mist, her eyes held sparkling fragments. Tom suddenly remembered the beautiful dress he altered yesterday, that gorgeous slip dress. He had secretly embroidered a golden butterfly wing on it. "Jessica," he whispered gently, "after Fashion Week is over, let us go see the lavender." She smiled and agreed. He checked. Provence flower season started next month. Soft moonlight pierced right through the clouds during Fashion Week. The lights inside his tiny tailor shop stayed on all night. He drank endless cups of coffee, pushing his limits until a massive fever hit. Completely delirious in his hotel room, he felt someone gently lifting him. Warm medicine slid down his dry throat. "Jessica, what time is it?" 3 a.m. Her voice sounded totally exhausted. "Do you know your fever hit 39 degrees. He forced his heavy eyes open, seeing her in a wrinkled robe, dark circles under her eyes, fever medicine scattered all over the bedside table. "You have not slept at all," covering him with thick blankets every half hour, wiping his sweaty forehead with a damp towel. She kept hugging his arm and talking. He snapped completely awake, sleepwalking. Jessica suddenly lined in, so close he could literally count her. Eyelashes, Tom, she stared right into his eyes. I tried helping you, scolding. An ex really does break a fever when you cursed her out just now. For the 7th time, your temperature dropped 3 degrees. Really, Tom burst out laughing, then suddenly choked up. His eyes turned red. Jessica gently pulled him close, resting her chin on his broad shoulder. Men are allowed to cry too, you know, just let it out. I have plenty of robes. You and I know Provence, sunlight beats Paris. Jessica stood right in the middle of the flower field, watching him, surrounded by local kids running and playing. With bright sparklers, Tom clumsily ruined a few flower branches, finally just pulling out money to bribe them. Trying to fool them only made the kids burst into loud laughter. Mr. Designer, what are you hiding in your hand? He walked right towards her. Please close your eyes. The second Jessica closed her eyes, she felt her hair weigh down slightly. Okay, open them up. He held up his phone to show her the screen reflection. A crooked sprig of lavender was perfectly pinned there, a comical little flower crown. Jessica looked totally distressed, wanting to snatch it off, but Tom grabbed her wrist gently. Hold on a minute. He pulled a bracelet out of his pocket, dangling it before her. The inside was engraved with the letter K. I want to tie down my spring, he said, gesturing to put the beautiful bracelet on her wrist. Pure romance. From the distance, the joyful laughter of the kids echoed. Beautiful purple waves of flowers rose with the wind. Now watch this. He stood by the floor-to-ceiling window inside his studio, holding a gold-stamped invitation tightly in his hand. The top. Listen up, top jewelry brand Laymen just invited our MC to be art director for their new product line. Just then, Jessica pushes the door open, carrying 2 hot cups of coffee. She sees him completely spaced out. Still hesitating, she asks gently. He sighs, suddenly realizing he is literally tearing the invitation apart. He thought he would never go back. Jessica hands him the coffee, its heat warming his hands. Is he afraid of seeing her again? He stays quiet, then suddenly lets out a laugh. No, he shakes his head. He is just wondering why he was ever scared. Outside the window, a lonely sycamore leaf dances in the wind, curling up before quietly dropping onto the sill. He looks up again, his eyes, pure determination now. He cannot hide away his entire life. When his flight finally lands in that familiar city, he sits in a total daze. 3 whole years, the airport looks exactly the same as before, but his mindset completely different now. Then an assistant named Mr. Tom hurries over to give him a warm welcome. Glad to have you back, the general manager Mike told me to take you straight to your hotel to rest up. We can go over the contract details tomorrow morning. Our MC smiles, nodding as he follows the assistant out to the parking lot. Looking out the car window, the passing city skyline flashes by, with massive high rises and familiar old signs. This city once held all of his love. Meanwhile, when Clara finds out he is finally back in the country, she is stuck in a meeting, her panicking assistant bursts through the doors, bends down, and whispers the news into her ear. Her eyes go wide. The fancy pen in her hand drops with a sharp click, spilling dark ink all over her important documents. Are you absolutely sure it is him? Her voice violently shakes. The assistant nods right back, the corporate car picking him up, parked right outside the company building today. Half the staff saw him. Clara shoots straight up from her chair. The entire conference room goes dead silent. Meeting adjourned. She drops those 2 words and sprints right out the door. Clara's car flies down the highway. She finally slams the brakes at the Vunvun Corporation headquarters. She barely pushes her car door open when she spots a very familiar figure stepping through the revolving glass doors. It is him. He is wearing a crisp white suit that perfectly shows off his broad shoulders. He looks tall, slender, and incredibly elegant, completely calm. Clara's breathing spikes. She tries stepping forward, but another woman blocks her path. The intense gazes of these 2 women lock right in midair. The Tension here is razor sharp. Clara glares back with a bone-chilling, freezing cold stare. Jessica stands perfectly still. She is not backing down from Clara today. Clara's eyes turn bloodshot with pure rage. Who the hell do you think you are? Do you even deserve to speak? Jessica just lets out a freezing cold laugh. Then what? Exactly are you, the one who hurt him so deeply? What right do you have to? Show your face here. Those words hit like a sharp blade, viciously stabbing. Straight into Clara's heart. Her fists clench up until they literally tremble, but she cannot even argue back. In the distance, our guy seems to notice something and turns his head toward them. Clara's breath instantly hitches in her throat. He is looking right at her, but a second later, his gaze just calmly drifts away. He does not care at all. To him, she is just another unimportant stranger on the street. He bends down and gets into his ride, and the black car slowly drives off. Clara just stands there, the blood in her veins turning completely freezing cold. He does not even want to hate her anymore. Clara, Jessica's sharp voice snapped her right back to reality. If you still have a shred of conscience left, then leave him alone. Clara just stared back at her with bloodshot eyes. Who do you think you are? His new lover? Who I am hardly matters. Jessica replied coldly. What actually matters is that Tom is doing amazing right now. The time without you, he finally learned to actually love himself. Night eventually fell. Clara stood completely alone outside the apartment complex where Tom used to live. The third floor window, pitch black, not a single light shining for her anymore. She frantically felt around for her cigarettes, but realized her hands were trembling way too much. She couldn't even flick the lighter open. Completely defeated, she leaned against the wall. Absolute despair, she stared up at that dark window. Tom, the cold breeze swallowed her whispers. Now watch this. Clara stood in the hotel lobby corner, her hands clenched so tight until they turned dead white. For 3 straight days, she acted like a madwoman, dispatching people to track down Tom's exact location, finally learning that tonight he would actually attend an exclusive private banquet. She honestly didn't know what she wanted here. Maybe it was because she couldn't accept reality, or maybe she just couldn't stomach Tom vanishing completely from her life. Suddenly, the elevator chimed open. Tom stepped out, pulling Jessica gently by the hand. He wore a sharp dark suit, the diamond on his brooch gleaming brilliantly under the lights. The corners of his mouth carried a very faint smile. He looked so handsome, yet utterly unreachable. Clara's heart ached. She took a deep breath, then desperately stepped forward. Tom, his footsteps instantly halted. He slowly turned his head, his piercing gaze locking onto Clara's face. A strange emotion flashed in his eyes before turning completely icy again. Boss Clara, he nodded slightly. His tone was as distant as speaking to a random corporate partner. Clara felt her throat tighten up. She instinctively stepped forward, reaching out to him. Jessica immediately frowned, stepping right in to block the space between them, but Tom very gently patted Jessica's hand. Hey, can you head to the car first? Jessica clearly wanted to say something, but stopped right there, seeing his completely determined gaze. She finally nodded and left. Out on the main street, a heavy, absolute silence remained, just quietly spreading. Tom, Clara's voice was totally hoarse, barely a whisper. I have something I need to tell you. Tom stared back at her in silence, his eyes like dead water. Speak. Clara's fingers were shaking uncontrollably. She had rehearsed this exact reunion 1,000 times in her head, but with Tom finally standing right there, she didn't even know how to begin. I am so sorry, she choked out, her voice carrying heavy, suppressed sob. About the ancestral soul, about that birthday, and about the divorce, for everything I did to ruin us. Then, her knees slammed into the marble. Please just forgive me. Everyone in the lobby stopped and stared. The high-end mighty female boss. Right now, she was kneeling before him, looking as pathetic as a broken stray dog. Tom just stared down at her, his expression not wavering for a single second. Clara, he finally said, his voice terrifyingly soft. Some mistakes just cannot be undone. Clara looked right up, her eyes completely red. Do we really have zero chance anymore? Her Voice shook like she was desperately trying to grab onto a lifeline, the absolute last. Lifeline. Tom just watched her in total silence, and then he laughed. That smile was faint, but it stabbed Clara right in the chest, because looking into his eyes, she saw zero lingering affection. His future didn't include her anymore. It was over. He coldly turned to walk away, but Clara suddenly lunged, grabbing his wrist. Tom, she begged, just give me one. One more chance, just once. He stopped walking, not struggling, not turning his head. Do you know, he said softly, I once honestly believed that if I loved you enough, gave you absolutely everything, you'd finally turn around and look at me. But he finally understood, slowly pulling his hand away. Love just isn't like that. Clara just kneeled there, watching his back slowly fade into the distance. Her fingertips still held the fading warmth from his wrist, but her heart, completely frozen. Right then, he and Jessica got into the car, and the exact moment he bent down to sit inside, a sycamore leaf hit the window. Right then, Clara suddenly remembered so many things from their youth. Back then, he was just a mischievous kid secretly sneaking a sandwich into her desk, getting completely caught by her, then blushing hard. Who cares about you? I'm just scared if you starve too. Death's who's gonna argue with me. If only time could rewind, if she could've understood her own heart sooner. But let's be real, there are no ifs in the real world. The black car drove off, completely disappearing into the rainy autumn night. Now stick with me here. Cut to David, huddled in some cheap motel, the screen's light hitting his absolutely wrecked, haggard face. A massive flood of news alerts just kept popping up. The Yang Corporation, officially bankrupt, billions in debt. David's dad, arrested on massive suspicion of commercial fraud, facing 10+ years behind bars. David violently smashed his phone right onto the bed, that screen shattering in the dead silent room. It sounded so insanely piercing. He hugged his knees, totally breaking down, his fancy silk pajamas all wrinkled, a multi-million-dollar diamond bracelet still on his wrist. 3 months ago, he was the rich young master everyone sucked up to. Now he can barely scrape up rent for this dump. Next morning, David stood at the mirror, desperately using his last bit of makeup to carefully hide that totally exhausted face. He needed to see Clara, the woman who used to literally do everything he asked, the girl who willingly threw money around like absolute trash. Just for him, if he could just make her soft-hearted again, he could fix his entire life. So wearing his only clean suit left, he put on his shoes, heading straight down to the Clara Corporation building. But the front security guard spotted him, frowned, and instantly blocked the way. Sorry, Mr. Yang, boss Clara said no visitors. David forced a pathetic smile. Tell her I have some urgent news about Tom. The guard hesitated for a second, but finally buzzed the intercom anyway. 5 minutes later, David is escorted up to her office. Top floor. Clara stood right by the floor-to-ceiling window, her back looking completely arrogant and icy cold. Hearing the door open, she didn't even flinch. Clara, David started, but his voice instantly choked up. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. He lunged forward, desperately trying to grab her arm, but she dodged him effortlessly. What did you say you had about Tom? Her voice absolute ice. David collapsed right onto the hard floor, looking up at her, tears falling down like rain. I didn't do those things willingly. They forced me. Clara, believe me, I've only ever loved you. Clara finally turned around, staring down at him like trash. That gaze made his entire body shake. Zero gentleness left in her eyes, only pure disgust and freezing cold. David, she let out a chilling laugh. Do you know, looking at you right now just makes me completely disgusted. He frantically shakes his head. No, he insists it was Tom's fault. Tom must have slandered him. He begs Clara, reminding her of their past together. But Clara suddenly grabs his chin hard. Does he even deserve to say Tom's name? She yanks a stack of photos from her desk, throwing them viciously right in his face. The photos scatter everywhere, undeniable proof. Intimate shots of him with countless different women over several long years. Was he forced to do all this too? Her icy, piercing glare drops right onto him, making David tremble in total fear. After that catastrophic night, he hits absolute rock bottom. Dead broke, he enters a shady underground bar. Under dim lights, the female boss critically looks him up and down. Has he done this work before? David tightly grips his shirt in humiliation. Nails digging into his palms, the boss just sneers, tossing a cheap mesh outfit. Put it on quick, he starts entertaining VIP guests tonight. Trembling, David takes the revealing clothes and walks into the dirty dressing room. Staring in the mirror, his face is horribly pale, that former rich elegance gone. Heavy dark circles now. By 3 a.m. in a smoky VIP room, he gets groped by a wealthy, middle-aged woman. She hugs him tight, her foul breath stinking of cheap alcohol as she leaves sloppy, messy kisses down his neck. She laughs. Hearing he used to be a rich young master, her sleazy hand slides up. Speak up, boy, what is his price for the night? David furiously swallows his disgust and forces a pathetic smile, trying to deflect the horrible joke, but her expression suddenly turns nasty. She raises her hand and violently slaps him for playing hard to get, just a cheap host acting all high and mighty. The slap hits so hard his head snaps sideways, blood trickles from his mouth. In the dark corner, his eyes go totally dead. If Clara had just let him go, he wouldn't be rotting here. Meanwhile, you and I should check on Clara. Over at the Clara Corporation, the massive conference room is dead silent, angry. Shareholders look furious, crushing financial documents right into their fists. The latest quarter reports just dropped. The corporation lost a staggering 37%. Bankruptcy is knocking, yet Clara just leans way back in her big chair. Staring blankly at the ceiling, totally aloof, it is like she is watching some random stranger's company fail. The whole conference room absolutely erupts. Has she gone completely crazy? This is her own grandfather's life work. Throwing the entire family business away for one dead guy, Clara slowly stands. Wearing a loose, messy dress, that fierce, glamorous boss energy completely gone. She does not say a single word. Without arguing, she just walks out the door. An angry shareholder violently shatters a glass right behind her. She does not care. Blocking out all their loud curses, her world is totally silent now. Late at night, she drives alone to the cold riverbank, windows completely down. The freezing wind blows her hair into a chaotic mess. Beside her sits a bag. Inside are all of Tom's beautiful design portfolios from recently. Not a single page is missing, from Paris Fashion Week clear down to local jewelry workshops. Everything he made, she tremblingly strokes those glossy photos. In every single shot, Tom is smiling so handsomely. Even without her, he lived so well. Clara grabs her phone, scrolling straight to Tom's old social media page, that very last post. Published 3 days ago, you and I are watching the new Rebirth series officially launch. A post reading, "Thank you to everyone who loves me." Attached is a picture of Tom and Jessica, the two of them standing by the Seine, fingers totally intertwined together. Cut to Clara, her vision blurs. She slowly presses her foot down on the accelerator. The speedometer needle climbs higher. The freezing river surface sparkles brightly under the moonlight like the shattered fragments of her wedding dress. Tom, she softly calls his name, completely letting go of the steering wheel. If there is a next life. The black car shoots out like a fired arrow, plunging straight down into the freezing river below. Cut to breaking news from this morning. A mysterious black car plunged into the Land River. Salvage operations are fully underway, according to the license plate information. The car owner is suspected to be the powerful general manager of Clara Corporation herself. Meanwhile, in a dark basement across the city, David stares obsessively at his phone screen, suddenly erupting into a totally maniacal laugh. Dead, she is actually dead. He laughs until crazy tears blur his vision. On the table sits a perfectly clean dagger. He didn't even have the chance to finish her off himself, but it does not matter. She still finally went straight to hell. David grabs a liquor bottle to celebrate, but suddenly coughs violently. Elsewhere, the criminal investigation captain is silently reading over the grim autopsy report, frowning deeply. The brake line was cut completely clean. This was definitely sabotage. The forensic doctor points at the photo. Listen, this was absolutely no accident. It was an assassination. Surveillance cameras quickly pinpoint our main suspect. 3 days before the crash, David appeared in Clara's usual parking garage, wearing a baseball cap and carrying a heavy tool bag. He lingered near her car for ages. When the police finally storm into that dark basement, David is laughing hysterically at the TV financial news. The screen broadcasts massive breaking news about Clara Corporation going completely bankrupt. Liquidation everywhere. You guys came right on time. He crazily waves his knife. Screaming, watch me tear up Clara's wedding photo. Countless shredded magazine pieces cut out or scattered all over the bed. Every single picture is pierced with holes. Now in court, David wears an orange jumpsuit. Under his dirty fingernails there are still faint traces of brake fluid. I originally meant to do it myself. He tilts his head, smiling like a total psycho. Shame she died too quickly. When the judge reads the final verdict, the spectator seats are completely empty. The greedy relatives who always flattered Clara's family, the rich kids who used to worship David. At this exact moment, they have all vanished without a trace. The heavy gavel falls. David suddenly lunges hard toward the railing. Tom, tell Tom to come see me, or I will make a scene. Only the cold judicial police answer him. It will definitely happen. Meanwhile, the cold morgue refrigerator lets out the hum of a serious, deadly silence. The exhausted staff calls the old Clara estate for the third time. Finally, a distant relative actually answers. Just handle it however you want. The cold Clara family hangs up. Absolutely tragic, right? Tom's notices were actually sent to his Paris address, but Jessica kept them entirely hidden, returned on the very last day of his hospital discharge. It was lightly drizzling outside. The young funeral home intern pushes a metal cart down a long, echoing corridor. Beneath the white cloth, a pale hand is exposed, so pitiful. The intern whispers to her colleague, Master Lowe, I heard she. You and I know he used to be incredibly influential. The master presses it. Still, no matter how much power someone holds, everyone burns exactly the same. The Venko Ekaburial ground sits quietly on a mountain out in the suburbs. The staff mixes the ashes inside jar, letting the wind scatter them deep into the valley. 3 months after Paris Fashion Week, Tom's latest Nirvana collection debuts its grand finale. The stunning model steps onto the stage wearing a fiery red, flowing dress, and right on the skirt, a beautifully embroidered phoenix appears, violently flapping its golden wings. Ready to soar, the show ends, and the entire crowd stands up, roaring with applause. Backstage, Jessica gently pins a stunning brooch onto Tom, half a golden butterfly wing. She whispers that the other half stays with her. Only when brought together, it becomes a complete, beautiful life. The sycamore trees lining the Seine River really stir up his emotions. Sunlight filters softly through the leaves, painting beautiful, zebra-like streaks of light across the stone path. Tom stands out on the studio balcony, holding a hot cup of tea, just gazing out at that sparkling silver river. Suddenly, from behind, he hears those familiar footsteps. A warm cashmere scarf drops gently onto his shoulders. What is he thinking about? Jessica stands beside him, her voice as gentle as the spring breeze. Tom turns to look right at her. The sunlight casts a perfect golden glow across her beautiful features. Her eyes, always holding that subtle little smile, gaze intently right back at him. He admits he was just thinking about their very first meeting. She had asked him about the inspiration behind that red dress. Jessica simply raises an eyebrow and chuckles softly. Tom looks out toward the Eiffel Tower. Stick with me here. He realizes that maybe from that exact moment, he had already fallen. Suddenly, Jessica pulls out an exquisite velvet box, revealing a sparkling diamond ring sitting right in her palm. Mr. Tom, she says, Softly, she admits she isn't great with fancy words, but wants to spend her entire life proving it. His future, every single second, is worthy of being treated with absolute tenderness. Gentle breeze blows right through Tom's hair. That stunning diamond on the ring catches and reflects a brilliant, blinding light. It turns out, true happiness never actually needs to be loud at all. Just the right person and a completely sincere heart. Tom reaches his hand out, heavy tears falling straight onto the diamond ring. He says yes. Their wedding happens on the hill of Montmartre. Zero flashy, extravagant displays, just their absolute closest people. Tom wears a custom suit he designed himself. On the tail of the jacket are beautifully embroidered golden butterflies looking like they want to spread their wings and fly in the sunlight. Jessica stands underneath a beautiful sycamore tree. A tender green leaf falls gently onto her shoulder. While exchanging rings, Jessica's hand starts trembling violently, almost completely dropping the ring straight onto the ground. The guests laugh happily. Tom gently places a kiss on her lips to ease her nerves. Miss Jessica, he whispers, blinking. The rest of our lives is very long. You can take all your time getting used to it. Another sycamore leaf blows away in the breeze, landing perfectly on their marriage certificate. It looks just like the ultimate seal of destiny. Now let's fast forward. Late one night, working serious overtime, Tom slumps over his design desk, falling fast asleep. When he finally wakes up, he finds a warm blanket draped over him. Jessica had quietly put it there. She sits right across from him, looking up at the noise past 10. Her eyes behind her glasses curve into a gentle smile. Awake, let's go home. Tom rubs his eyes, then suddenly he grabs a pencil and starts sketching quickly onto the drawing paper. Just a moment later, a gorgeous new women's dress appears on the page. The collar is perfectly embroidered with a wildly unique half-koi fish, his birthday gift to her. He smiles, sliding the drawing over. The matching half debuts on her runway tomorrow. Jessica just stares at him, then suddenly rushes around the desk, literally scooping him right up into her arms, spinning wildly amidst all those scattered design sketches. Pure genius, she presses her forehead against his, leaning in. Is he claiming her right in front of the entire world? Outside their yacht window on the Seine River, we hear the sweet, rhythmic sound of the waves. This absolute perfection, it completely makes up for every ounce of courage it took to finally get right here.